Well, welcome to what I think is video number 3 on April 24th. Hard to believe that we're almost through April. Time is certainly flying by as we deal with what has become a bit of a new reality in the short term. As I start all my videos, again, I want to say thank you to our team, to our community, to our patients and their families. Everyone is having to deal with things in a very different way right now. Certainly not our first choice, but the right choice that we are making to get us through the immediate challenges of the COVID-19 situation, not only locally, but provincially and federally. You may note that if you've been following these videos, I typically have a tree sticking out of my head. That's our HPHA tree that one of my sons gave me for Christmas a few years ago. But I've taken it down and I've put back my Ottawa Senators picture. Some of you have seen this in my office. It's got a great personal story behind it. But quite frankly, I'm tired of watching the reruns of the 2001 Toronto-Ottawa series where, yes, Toronto did sweep Ottawa, and I get that. But I'm putting this on just to help me get through, obviously, the turmoil of watching that almost every single night. For those of you who know the picture, it actually was done in 2007, the year that Ottawa was in the Stanley Cup final, so actually this century. So what I want to hit on a couple things specifically this update. One is our capacity planning and sort of where we are with that, and then secondly on our ramping back up as we sort of look ahead to the next few weeks and months. On capacity, I want to give a huge shout out to all our team who've stepped up to be redeployed into our ICU. As you know, we've added net new ICU beds at the request of the province, and we have about 40 staff, 20 existing staff, 20 temporarily coming into the organization who are going through the necessary training now to be ready to occupy additional beds if directed. The ICU piece is looked at more provincially, and there is certainly a lot of processes that we've been working on to be ready. Our ICU numbers from a COVID point of view are not as high as anticipated, which is obviously fantastic. But we are ready, and I simply want to say thank you to everybody who has stepped forward in a very challenging time. I saw a quote recently from a nurse who said because of her very low activity in the area, bored on one hand and terrified on another because you just don't know what's going to be happening. So we're ready. Our team's ready. We've got the resources we need. Optimistically, we're not going to need to activate on the COVID piece, but just want a major shout out to everybody who has stepped forward. The second on the redeployment piece deals with long-term care, or what, as part of what we're calling, you're hearing the word congregate care, which is care environments where people come together, where there's long-term care. It could be retirement homes, group homes, a number of settings. And if you've been following the COVID situation across the province and nationally, long-term care, retirement homes have really been hit hard with this. And I think we would all agree, and we all understand how viruses spread. But when you have a very close environment where people are in the same space, it's not hard for these things to suddenly catch hold and take off. And our long-term care homes across the province have had some very challenging times, and our hearts and thoughts are with them and all of the affected residents and family members. But part of what's going on now, we have staff who are redeploying. One of our long-term care partners, Greenwood, has had an outbreak, and we actually today have 4 staff who are working there. We are going to be training additional staff to help support them through this challenging time. We put out a call, and we had 27 staff and physicians volunteer and say, yes, we would be happy to be redeployed, and I just wanted to give a major shout out and thank everybody for doing that. Anybody who's interested can still put their name forward. I think it's a wonderful example of partnerships and how we support one another at a time of need. The other point with respect to long-term care and congregate settings is you may have heard that the government is wanting to swab all residents and staff who work and live in these environments. And so we will be working and supporting public health in any way that they feel is necessary with respect to providing staff who are able to go in and assist with that swabbing. It's something that the province wants to do and want to do it fairly quickly, so we're a key part of that. So on the capacity side, our ICU and the long-term care, kudos to everybody who's been involved in that. I also want to give a specific shout out today to our union leadership. So Kim and Lori and Patricia. To say it's a bit of a different environment for unions across the province would be an understatement. But I just want to say, and my experience in this organization, it has always been this way, but just how impressed I am with how engaged, supportive, the leadership that our unions are showing and making sure that we as an organization, we as staff, are able to do exactly what needs to be done in the moment for those who need it. So major shout out there, and thank you very much. The last thing is on ramp up. We're starting to hear some conversations about, well, should we be reintroducing services? We are not yet at that point. We have been told provincially to maintain the excess capacity that we have worked hard to ensure is available in case we need to transfer people from congregate care settings into our acute care hospitals should there be further challenges. Don't know if that's going to happen. Optimistically it won't, but we are not yet approved to start ramping back up our work that we would have postponed. We are, though, starting to plan for that. And we will be looking at, over the next couple of weeks, what that will look like in sort of the short term, mid-term, and longer term, because we obviously want to get back up to providing the care that our community so rightly deserves. We will have a backlog that we need to catch up on. So certainly that's going to be part of our conversation, and we're going to start having those discussions internally. Regardless of that, it's important that we keep our foot on the gas when it comes to physical distancing, doing all that we can to limit the spread of COVID-19. And boy, we've been successful, I think, in that front, and kudos to everybody. I'm going to finish, though, with an article, or not an article, but a letter to the editor that I saw. This was back at the beginning of April, and I think it really reflects kind of how a lot of us are thinking. You may know I'm wearing red. I have a scarf on today, and this is to acknowledge and support Nova Scotia for the tragedy that they have had to deal with over the past week with the senseless shooting that occurred. Just, it's unfathomable to understand what would cause someone to do that. It's such a tragedy on so many levels. And I know that Nova Scotians, and I spent 6 years of my life in Halifax at Dalhousie University, so I have a lot of friends in that part of the world. I know how appreciative they are of the support that they're getting. So that's why the red scarf today. But I want to just read something that I saw that really resonated with me, because it sort of speaks to the future of where we're going to be going. And as you probably know, I mean, we will only eradicate COVID-19 when we have everybody vaccinated. Until that point, there's always going to be the virus in play, so we have to be smart. So I'll read this to you. It's from a chap named Reinhard Rethmeyer. It was published in the Toronto newspaper. So nothing will be perfect again, and that's just fine. So it's an opinion letter. 10 things I'll do after COVID-19. And I would just qualify that and just say 10 things I'll do after we reopen the economy and get organized. I'll wash my hands more often, right? Common sense. How simple is that? But how often is it not done? I'll stay home if I'm sick. So important. I'd also suggest if we have family members who are sick, that we stay home or we put a mask on when we go out, because that, again, is the way we transmit. I'll get vaccinated. Boy, we do really well here with flu vaccination, as you know, but we need to be smarter about that as a society. I'll thank people working at the grocery store, and I hope everybody is doing that now, and thanking everybody who is continuing to work and support us and to support the economy in those areas that are so important as we work through this. I'll donate more. Money, time, very, very important. And we really champion through our foundations, we champion through United Way, and everybody I know in this organization has their own way of giving back, so very important. I'll support a basic income. We've seen that coming up more times than has in the past, which is nice to see. I'll want better care for seniors. This is a very topical conversation right now with how we're able to support, and we are very fortunate in this area to work with some wonderful long-term care homes, and we need to make sure that as lessons get learned for all of us, where we can improve in hospitals, where we can improve in other sectors, we need to do that. I'll value science. How topical is that for those of us who may be watching U.S. news media? I'll recognize the efforts of frontline workers. And lastly, I'll be very grateful to be Canadian. So thanks everybody for the great work you continue to do.